Hello everyone, welcome back to Super Smash or Pass. Today's a little bit of a different episode because we're not going to be just looking at one character, we're going to be looking at two. Today it's Alm and Celica from Fire Emblem. So Alm and Celica made their first appearance way back on the Famicom in 1992's Fire Emblem Gaiden. This was the second Fire Emblem game, the sequel to Marth's game, which is like a Shadow Dragon or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, it was way back on the Famicom, or NES, but technically the same system, but also technically not the same system. It's weird. I don't know. In 2017, they got a remake on Nintendo 3DS called Fire Emblem Shadows of Valentia Echoes, which is way too long of a title, but it was a remake of Gaiden. It's great. It's fun. If you haven't tried it out, it's a pretty good game. I recommend it. And then, of course, Celica also made an appearance in 2017's Fire Emblem Warriors. That's what it was, Fire Emblem Warriors, on the Nintendo Switch. And only Celica was playable. I believe Alm was also in the game, but Celica was a playable one, and that's what I'm counting here. It's playable appearances, not just general appearances. They also technically made an appearance in Awakening, along with like every other Fire Emblem character in the history of Fire Emblem. But I don't really count those cameos because they weren't like in the game. You know what I mean? I think you guys understand what I'm talking about. Because we're covering two characters, we're going to have to be covering things a little bit differently than we normally would. We're going to cover Alm and Celica as a duo, Alm and then Celica. So a duo and then them both separately as separate fighters, because we don't know how these characters will be implemented. And the reason I am doubling up on these characters is because it's really weird to have Alm without Celica and Celica without Alm, and given that they're the most recent Fire Emblem Lords, I want to talk about them, because if I talk about Edelgard, for example, I don't know anything about her, or her moveset, or her game, so it's hard to talk about that character, and I really do think if they're going to pull from something, they pull from the most recent game, probably, I would assume, at least. So first off, let's start with them as a duo, because generally, these two are seen as a duo. You know, of course, they're both from Gaiden. You kind of want to pair them together. It's weird to have one without the other. Although, to be fair, it has been done before, most notably in Warriors, so that's why we're also going to be looking at them separately later on. There's two ways that Alm and Celica could work. The first is as an Ice Climbers type duo, where like you'd play as both characters at the same time. Some moves Alm would do, some moves Celica would do, but I think this method is a little bit messy and a little bit difficult to understand, because it's not like the Ice Climbers, right? The Ice Climbers, you control both of them sometimes. You control both of them, but they're both doing the exact same thing. It's one moveset, just with a wider character almost, if you want to look at it that way. Whereas Alm and Celica would kind of be like controlling two different characters at the same time, and it'd be weird, and I just don't think it would work, and I don't think that's what Sakurai would do. I think that's like the initial idea some people would have, because like, well, we'll just make them like the Ice Climbers, but I don't think that works in this Canario? Like a canary? What? In this scenario? It would work for a character like Plusle and Minun. That would be fine, because they would be doing the same type of move, but it probably wouldn't work for Alm and Celica. And then we have a Zelda and Sheik style duo, where pressing a button would change you from playing as Alm to playing as Celica. And I actually really like this idea, mainly because it's kind of how it works in Shadows of Valentia, because you have separate paths. So sometimes you want to play as Alm and you play as Alm's story, or sometimes you're going to play as Celica and you play through Celica's story. It's up to you, and it's up to your choice on what you want to do. Of course, you do have to complete both to beat the game, but you know what I mean. And I think that doing this switch mechanic would be really fun and very interesting for these characters, especially since Zelda and Sheik have been split into two completely separate characters now. It's almost like how they did with Samus and Zero Suit Samus, where after Samus's Final Smash, she turned into Zero Suit Samus, and then Zero Suit Samus's Final Smash would make her back into regular Samus. I thought that was a fun idea, and I understand why they moved away from that, but it's really cool to see something like that appear in Smash Brothers, and I think it'd be fun to do again with Alm and Celica. So in this one, you'd give Alm his complete own moveset, right, where he would obviously focus on sword using and bow and arrow. I think he should use the bow and arrow a little bit more than characters like Link have traditionally used them. His regular moves would use his sword, which would make him a close range fighter, but his smash attacks, in my opinion, should use his bow and arrow. to give him some aspects of a long-range fighter, but, you know, with his smash attacks exclusively. On the other hand, Celica's normal attack should use her magic and have her be long range, where her smash attacks would use her sword and focus on the close range. This makes them both mixed fighters, but kind of gives them a yin-yang type of aspect to them. So if you want to fight long range, you have your choice, but it is kind of, you know, paralleling them and making them opposites of each other almost, which I think is really cool and interesting. For the duos Final Smash, whether it be the Ice Climbers or the Zelda Sheik method, I think you kind of have to make something that'll work for both characters. And I think that what you should do is bring in Milla, the Divine Dragon, from their game, and have her unleash her power on their enemy, whether it be through Celica's prayer or whatever. I don't really know what else you could do for both of them together. I guess you could do like critical hit or something, but that's kind of boring. Or maybe use like the pair-up mechanic fighting thing from Robin's Final Smash, because it's probably not going to happen anymore because Chrom's around. Now we separate them, and let's first talk about Alm. And I think that Alm would work basically like we said he would work in the Switch thing, but he wouldn't be able to switch. He would probably use mostly his swords, maybe not as many bow and arrow type moves. I think you could limit those a little bit down a little bit if he's separate. But he'd probably be very similar to a lot of characters in the roster, like Link, or Toon Link, or Young Link, or Marth, or Ike, or any sword user. I don't think that Alm has way too much to separate him. In fact, the only thing that really separates him from any other Fire Emblem character is his bow and arrow, and even then, I don't know how much you could really utilize that, because he's not just an archer. If he was just an archer, that'd be a different story, but I don't know how much you're going to be able to get use out of that. And then for Celica, it would be the same type of thing, except I think Celica would have an added bonus of being separated from Alm. Celica would then be able to incorporate something from her game, which is her magic attacks should do damage to her. This needs to be a risk-reward type system, not as bad as like Pichu, mind you, that's just dumb, but like using her attacks, you need to time it right. So you're going to want to have those hard-hitting moves at first, because your damage is going to go up. Or if you're going to save them for the end, you're running the risk of getting smashed really, really quickly and getting knocked out. So, like I said, risk-reward. Do you go for easier moves to keep yourself in a safe zone? Or do you go for the harder-hitting stuff, hoping that you can knock out an opponent before they get you out of the game? And I think it'd be a fun way to do it. I think that it would be a very original character for that reason. And it's also, like I said, incorporating an aspect from her game, because magic damages the user in the game. I should also mention that both of these characters could potentially also work as Echo fighters. Alm's a bit more obvious. He'd probably be an Echo of Ike. Now, I don't think that Ike is the perfect candidate for him to copy a moveset from. He's probably better off as a Marth Echo, but seeing as we already have 4 characters in this game that use Marth's base moveset, I don't think we need a 5th. I think Marth, Chrom, Lucina, and Roy are fine enough with that, and while Ike's moveset isn't exactly perfect for Alm, I think it'd be fine. You'd be okay. He wouldn't have his bow, so he'd be way less original than before, but it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. And then Celica would have to borrow from Robin, and this works a little bit better than you would think, because, of course, Celica also uses both magic and a sword. Now, I think that the weapon degradation that Robin has would not be present for Celica, because that doesn't make sense for her game, and you only have one sword, so you don't have to worry about all these different swords. The magic also would be more streamlined, and again, you could even have that damage thing that we talked about as her Echo Fighter moveset. So I think an Echo Fighter would actually fit Celica pretty well. Now, when they're separate, I think their final smashes would probably both be critical hit, again, unfortunately. You could have Robin's final smash kind of being inherited by these two, where they call in the other one for help in a final smash. That could be kind of weird, though, if they're both playable, so I don't know. Or you could just pull from whatever their strongest move is in their game. I'd probably just be critical hit, though, if we're going to be honest here, because every Fire Emblem seems to have that. Every Fire Emblem character seems to have that as their final smash. I'm not the biggest fan of critical hit, but it's probably going to be critical hit. Now, obviously, Alm and Celica are the most obvious choices, in my opinion, when it comes to a new Fire Emblem character, because they're the most recent characters. However, we should note that in a couple of months, okay, maybe more like a year, we're gonna have a new Fire Emblem game. And yes, it'll be post Smash Bros. Release, but DLC is gonna happen. I cannot think of any reason why they wouldn't make DLC, and Edelgard is probably a very, very likely candidate for that DLC. So does that hurt Alm and Celica's chances? Potentially, I'm not entirely sure. There's also the fact that I don't think they do a combo character, because it seems like a lot of work, because you have to basically develop 2 brand new fighters for the sake of 1. And I don't know if they're going to want to do that. I mean, it'd be cool, don't get me wrong. My preferred way to incorporate these 2 into Super Smash Bros. Would be switching between Alm and Celica. I think that's the best route you could do it. But I just can't see that happening, unfortunately. At least not now. Maybe someday it'll be a thing that we can look forward to, but I don't think that'll happen in Ultimate. And Echo Fighters are probably their best bets. Realistically, it's probably what they're going to get. Like I said, Alm, probably not. I don't think Alm will be present in this game, unfortunately, as an Echo Fighter. It just doesn't work. However, Celica works extremely well as an Echo Fighter. So for Alm, we're going to have to give him the verdict of pass. For the combo, we're going to have to give them the verdict of pass. But for Celica as an Echo Fighter, I think I can say smash. I think I can give her that verdict. And, you know, I don't think it's super, super likely, but I do think it's more possible than some of the other characters that people have looked at for the Echo Fighter candidates. Like I said, it's not perfect, it doesn't fit extremely well, and it might not happen, but I don't think it's an impossible inclusion into this game. And hey, Alm will probably be an assist trophy if Celica gets in as an Echo, so there's that. And then also the Robin's old Final Smash would work perfectly fine in that case, because Alm would not be present in the game, except for in either the Final Smash or an assist trophy, so that'd be fine. However, that's just my verdict. Let me know in the comments down below. Are these 2 destined to be in Super Smash Bros.? Is only one of them going to make the cut? Or are both of these 2 not making the cut and we're waiting for Edelgard, and that's it, no questions asked? Remember to like, comment, favorite, subscribe, do all the fun stuff down below. Let me know in the comments, who would you like to see get an episode of Super Smash or Pass? And we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.